celebrate the new year? The first and the foremost reason we celebrate New Year is God is celebrating the New Year. Isn't it a good news to all of us? This is what we have heard reading. Let's go back to the verse that we have read. You crown the year with goodness. God is celebrating the new year. God is crowning the new year. God has prepared a crown to crown the new year. Crowning is celebration. Crowning is celebration. So we see from the psalmist experience that God joins with us and He is also celebrating the new year. What a great experience for God and for God's people. Crown talks about various things. First of all, crown denotes authority. Authority. Kings have crown. Kings have crown. Crown demonstrates authority. God celebrates the new year with His authority over the days of the year. He crowns the new year. Crown also talks about judgment. When the king comes, King of Kings comes, He also comes to pass judgment. A discipline, an order. We recently celebrated Christmas. One thing that always interests me while I read the Christmas narrative is the power of the world was crushed when God's power came into existence. When God was active with His power, all through the birth narrative, we find the power of this world was crushed. You know, Herod the Great tried his level best to destroy the baby Jesus. Herod the Great tried his level best to destroy the work of God in the life of his people. Herod the Great tried his level best to kill the newborn baby Jesus so that there will not be salvation, so that there will be no threat to his power. There will be no threat to his kingdom. He tried every possible way. Therefore, God is present with us this evening to celebrate the new year with a crown. With a crown. This crown is a demonstration of God's power into our new year. He is here to destroy every work that is set against us, every power that is trying to work against us. The God who was with us is also with us to destroy every power that we come across in our lives. It may have to do with our health. God has crown upon the days for us in the future. And He is celebrating. His power is upon the days of His future. Therefore, there can be no power coming to us through the power of health or whatever it may be. Sickness cannot have control over us because God has crowned the days and the years for us. His power is active. Financial crisis cannot overtake because the power of God is active in the new year. There can be no evil against us because God's power is active. He is celebrating the new year with us, with His power. In the January, we have this promise for us that His crown is with us. We experience God's crown in every day of the new year and the years ahead. When you get up every morning, let us be reminded of this verse. Lord, You have crowned this day. You have crowned this week. You have crowned this month. You have crowned this year. You are celebrating it with your power into my life. Therefore, I can boldly bring this weakness and place it and submit it into the power of God that can crash down the power of this world that is disturbing us. What exactly the weakness that you have experienced in the past? What exactly the power that is trying to stop your way to work for God? Remember this crown that talks about the power of God and authority of God in our life. All through the ministry of Jesus, there were several powers that trying to stop his plan. But Jesus was able to overpower every power. Jesus was tempted in the wilderness. There was a power to tempt him and make him fall. But this crown was there to protect him because God had ordained the days and the years for him. The power of God is active for each and every one of our lives. The second important reason that we celebrate New Year is that God has treasured goodness. We read, you crown the year with your goodness. You crown the year with your goodness. God is celebrating with the goodness that he has treasured for us. Therefore, we only think of God's great work in our lives. We have no time to think about the work of evil in our lives, in our hearts. Because God has promised us his goodness. Therefore, there can be no loss in the economy of God. God is so powerful, and his blessings are abundant in each and every one of our lives. We can face every day with this promise. Oh God, you have treasured goodness and greatness for me. And that is an assurance for us. Therefore, we rejoice every day because goodness waits for each and every one of us. We rejoice every day because God has his promise treasured for each and every one of us. And that makes us to celebrate the new year with trust and confidence in God. As the psalmist says, even if I walk through the valley of death, oh God, you are there for me. That's the peak of psalmist's trust in God. Even if I face the worst thing in my life, oh God, you are there for me. You are there for me. I fear no evil. I fear no evil because he rests upon the promise of God that he has treasured goodness for him every day. How much we trust God? What's the measure of God trust in God in the new year? How deep it has gone into. There are many ways we all experience the goodness of God in our lives. Psalmist says, even if I walk through the valley of death, God, you are there for me. I fear no evil into my life. Your staff and rod shall comfort me. Great amount of faith that he had in God. And the third and the final reason that we find in this psalm that psalmist talks about the new year is the way of God. He says, your paths drip with abundance. Your paths drip with abundance. The good news for each of us as we are in the new year is that the road we go does not belong to us. The road we go belongs to God's guidance and direction. He has set this road for each and every one of us. Everyone who decides to go on a journey has to select the road that he or she wants to go. To reach a place, there are many ways. To reach a destination, there are many ways to reach the destination. But the question is, which road is to choose? Which road is to go? And we have a guidance from the scripture. Your paths. Psalmist talks about, God, your paths drip with abundance. There is a direction to each and every one of us. The journey that we go, the road we choose, is the road that God has prepared for each and every one of us. Let us be reminded of this good news this evening, that God has a new, unique road for us to go in the new year. Therefore, we fear no evil. Why? Because there's a drip of abundance. Drip with abundance. The road, the paths drip with abundance of God's mercy and grace and His goodness for each and every one of us. We do not know which road we came last year. But one thing is assured, we are not going to go in the same road. We are not going to go in the same road. God has a new road for us. The road that He has set unique to each and every one of us. Are we willing to follow His guidance and the direction? Or are we choosing the road that we want to go? The road may be very hard, very rough, very painful. Let us go in the road that God has designed for each and every one of us. Let us submit our lives to God and ask God to help us to find the road that He has for each and every one of us. As long as you are in the road that He has set for us, our vehicle will be good. Our journey will be pleasant and there will be no pain. But when we decide to go on our own road, the journey will be very painful. And we will have to face trials and temptations. But God will be with us too, because He has promised us that He will never leave us nor forsake us. There are many people who would say, I do not know why did I make that decision. I do not know why did I choose this. I do not know why I had to make this choice in my life. And they regret. But when we choose the way of God, we have no regrets. There's no loss in God's way, because God has treasured the abundance of His blessings for each and every one of us. So as we are in the new year, let us be reminded of these three factors that can help us to continue our life journey and our faith journey. The one is God's crown, God's celebration of the new year with us, with His authority, with exercising His power. And secondly, let us be reminded about God's promise of His goodness and His greatness in each and every one of our lives. And third and finally, let us also be reminded of the path, the road that God has for each and every one of us.